What's up, everybody? My name is Corey.
I'm Wyatt.
And in late 2023, saw the release of Godzilla Minus One, and it took the world by storm, with many calling it the best in the franchise. And with both of us being lifelong Godzilla fans and the series entering its 70th anniversary, we figured, could that really be the case? So now we're going to put that to the test and go through every single Godzilla movie in the franchise to determine which one really is king of them all.
So today we're going to start our first in the Legendary series. We're going to go over the newest release, being Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire.
Yeah, so with that, today we are covering Godzilla x Kong, like he said, and we're going to start, since it's so freshly out and so new, we're actually going to get into some of the more non-spoiler thoughts kind of really quickly, and then delve into some more specific spoiler-heavy moments. So starting with that, Wyatt, non-spoilers, what did you think about Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire?
I thought it was good. It was fun. I think it had, to me, like the most enjoyable human cast of the Legendary series so far, which is a nice touch because they have not been great thus far with the human aspect of it. So definitely a plus on that. But the movie as a whole, I thought it was fun. It had a lot of good action. I want to see it again. I wasn't ever bored during it, and that's a great thing too. So yeah, I thought it was a great time. It was a fun movie. So I would definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked it myself. I thought it was really good. I think it's definitely one of the higher ones on the Legendary series. Hi Willow, thank you. I thought, definitely it's higher up in terms of Legendary series. Like you said, we almost held hands there. Meet cute on the camera. But anyways, I thought the cast was some of the best, and I thought, the action was even better. I've seen it twice now. I saw it once in the standard with you, and I saw it in MX4D at the B&B, and that was a freaking blast. This movie, if you haven't seen it yet and you're looking for just kind of a springtime, early summer blockbuster movie, I think this is definitely one of the ones that you should go out of your way to check out before it's out of theaters. So
yeah.
It was almost the end of Kong.
They don't have to like each other. They just have to work together.
Now I have seen everything.
We've made some minor augmentations.
Oh.
So now we are going to get into some more of these spoiler-related topics here, thoughts, specific scenes, just kind of what we've thought about some of the actual moments in the movie, in the theater, I suppose too. But yeah, I did want to start with the beginning, because we're not going to break down the plot fully, but choose some specific moments. And so with that, I wanted to talk about the beginning. We opened up with Kong and. I always want to call it After Earth or Middle Earth. It's Hollow Earth, and he's being chased by some wild dog things. Yeah. And I just thought I want to talk about it because I thought the opening was so strong for both Kong and Godzilla, just because you have that fight of Kong with this pack of wolves, and it ends with him just covered in blood and eating the thing. Yeah, what did you think?
I thought the opening was. That was good. I liked that it showed not only Kong being like smart and tactical, but like just he is still like a savage monster, if you will. Like, so he still has that aspect of it too. So that was cool. But yeah, him having traps, that was good touch. That was fun. I like how it comes back later in the movie also.
Yeah.
But then it went into like the little interesting. Toothache scene or section of the movie, which I thought was I didn't expect that at all. So that was kind of funny. That was interesting and new. And we have seen King Kong go to Kong go to the dentist at this point. So that was cool. And that introduced a new character, which I liked a lot. So
I actually thought, getting to that scene, I actually thought that is one of the riskiest scenes in a movie because it ended up being like, so yeah, if you haven't seen it, but you don't care about spoilers, Kong ends up getting like this toothache and returns to the surface world to get it treated. And so Kong goes to the dentist, and it actually works out to be kind of one of the more like ridiculous scenes in the movie and entertaining. And like I said to you, I think, and I've said it to multiple people, like it's I think the riskiest scene in the movie, because we could very well be sitting here going like, can you fucking believe they had got Kong going to the dentist? And I feel like, and that's kind of the theme of the movie, they leaned into the ridiculous nature of these scenes and these characters. That really worked out for the better. And I thought like, because I forget the name of it, but it was like some 80s song that was playing while the character Trapper, who probably ends up being my favorite character in the series, or not in the, well, I don't know about in the series, but in the movie for sure. As he's coming down, he's very charming. I think very heavily Ace Ventura inspired, which they actually do call out at one point. But
I think so too. And like I think it's cool that it like kind of harkens back to like how kind of like quirky some of the older like Godzilla and Kong movies were. They weren't all super serious and trying to take themselves too seriously, like maybe some of the scenes in the legendary movies have been, and that kind of ruins, not ruins, but like it just, I think it takes away from the experience in a way.
Yeah, this is definitely, I think, more leaning into the like the later Showa era, if we can be a little bit nerdy about it, of the cartoony nature of these characters and these creatures. It's Godzilla's first fight in this, I think, is the monster he's technically fighting is like this big spider crab thing. I think its name is Skyla, but I think it's clearly a reference to the old spider that you would just see in random movies on Monster Island. And I thought that was a great introduction for Godzilla, who you don't get very much, like you get quite a bit amount of Godzilla. It's definitely more Kong heavy. Plot wise and screen time wise, I think Kong just negotiated for a better contract, is what I heard. I think what I thought, the way I thought of it is Godzilla is firmly in his Goldberg stage. He does not show up for more than 5 minutes, and he does not give many other, give very much offense to the other enemy creatures.
I mean, he definitely, his scenes are short, sweet, to the point, and they are, he's a wrecking ball. Well, it's as you expect Godzilla to be. I mean, he shows up and just destroys things and goes on about his business and, retains his title rightfully as king. So I think that's, I mean, all of his scenes, I wish there was more Godzilla. I can't deny that, but I think the ones that are there, they do, they deliver to the point that, like, Godzilla is king of the monsters, and I think that's they do their job, and that's great. So, and I think as far as Kong stuff goes, I think it was all very well done. Like, I really enjoyed all of Kong's scenes. It's not a complaint that there was more Kong than Godzilla. I just wish that there was more Godzilla with the existing scenes that were already there. That's
absolutely, definitely. I think the plot is a lot more Kong heavy. And I think even the director Adam Wingard has actually recognized that, because I think he did release kind of in a statement or an interview, I'm not quite sure where, he did say that if he makes a sequel to this, it's going to be more of the Godzilla version of the side of that coin. But I also understand, I think by this time this is Godzilla's 4th movie in the Legendary series, and only Kong's 3rd appearance, so I think it's it kind of makes sense that maybe Kong's getting a little bit more of the lion's share of the work here. But Godzilla's scenes, if we're talking about just Godzilla's scenes alone, they're still awesome, because every scene comes with some kind of fight or some kind of memorable moment. Like, we get the fight of him with Tiamat, is I think the name of the like water dragon.
I think so.
So pretty much to kind of summarize Godzilla's plot in this is, while Kong is exploring, not after Hollow Earth, and he finds his other Kongs, which those moments are really awesome. In fact, Kong has probably my favorite fight of the movie, where he first meets Kong Jr. is I always forget the guy's name. The little guy.
I just go on the little guy.
It looks like Joe Pesci. And but so Kong, Kong definitely. I forgot. I lost my train of thought here.
The fight where he meets the new apes.
Oh yeah, so that Kong even has my favorite fight in this movie is where it's like he meets the three new apes and ends up using the smaller guy who ends up being his sidekick for the rest of the movie as a nunchuck, and that's awesome. If you've seen it, it's awesome. It's a super entertaining movie. It's really that fight particularly. It makes you laugh, and it's still super badass because Kong is just whipping ass. And that actually probably introduces my favorite plot line in the movie is Kong and this little guy. Of I don't know if you've seen it, but it's actually very reminiscent of my dad called it out in the theater as Road Warrior, Mad Max Road Warrior,
okay.
the second one, where Mad Max is this this grizzled old veteran, and there's this little feral kid following him around, and it's there is literally scenes that are I think very visually reminiscent of Mad Max not Fury Road, but Road Warrior. A little diatribe that's I think it was very much on purpose, because this movie very much, even though Godzilla and Kong were not really big figures in the 80s, Adam Wingard actually definitely leans into the 80s nature of this movie, and with a lot of genuine 80s natures, but I think 80s kind of references in both the soundtrack and just the kind of visual vibe of the movie. There's a lot of neon in certain scenes with the technology and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. And I think to kind of to go back to the Kong, focus in the movie, I think it does. It's valuable to the movie, of course. They're all good scenes, but I think at the same time, it gives world building. It gives the world room to grow and breathe, and you can see how it can expand. And there's different. It's not. I don't know. It just gives it some breadth. I think the world itself that we're trying to explore. So that's exciting too. But yeah, I think that fight with Kong and the little orange fella is fantastic. I love the noise that he makes when he gets flung around and swung and smacked into the other apes. I think it's great. I laughed probably a little too hard at that noise that he makes frequently throughout the movie. But yeah, and that whole journey from when they first meet to the end of the movie. I mean, to the end of the movie, it kind of starts the whole wheels turning of why he can be called King Kong. He's just Kong right now, but you see him having the, I don't know what the right word is, being able to be king and be he has pity for other creatures and stuff, and mercy, and just has empathy and stuff, and whereas these other apes they don't, they use brutality and and anger and fear to control and live, and that's not how Kong, that's not how he's gonna roll. So I think when you get into the quote unquote present camp that in the lava realm. I wanted to call it Mordor, but that little area and everything in there is fear and pain and torment, and Kong comes in and stands up for the people that are being held against their will, and I think that's, I don't know, I like that scene a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that scene is awesome. The one where the one we're talking about in particular is when he first goes into what we learned is the Scar King's lair, that he was banished there by Godzilla, it turns out. And you get the introduction of not only Scar King, but all the other kind of villainous apes who are beating down their own kind and enslaving their own kind. And Kong kind of immediately lays down business and slaps helps up a weaker ape who's fallen down, and when another, I guess, of the evil apes, which my dad kind of pointed out, the more evil ones are the ones that are more indicative of chimpanzees than actual silverback gorillas.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And I didn't notice that, And you actually notice that like all the apes that were enslaving the other apes are the ones that are more, and I could be wrong because it's probably been a week since I've seen the movie now, but are more reminiscent of like chimpanzees and orangutans and other kind of apes, whereas the ones who are enslaved are more reminiscent of like actual silverbacks, kind of, you know. And I'm sure if we go back and watch it now, it's very easily to disprove that.
I mean, that makes sense. Now that you say that, I can see that for sure.
Yeah, and then I did love the intro of the villain, Scar King.
Yeah,
it was awesome because like he's up on this like throne of like bodies. I feel like in rubble, and he has this spine whip as a weapon. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, the whole like length of time when like the movie had time to breathe and grow as its own thing prior to there being like there was like the clues of something going on, you know, but then it didn't feel like there was suddenly like this overwhelming threat. Like I don't know, but it had a nice time, like a nice run prior to a villain being introduced, and then when he was introduced, it was like I just think it was done well. Like there was plenty of dread building up to it, and I mean even up to him coming down off the throne. I mean everything, the music, like the music in those scenes was great. The atmosphere, you know, it was dreadful, and he seemed very just imposing and scary and stuff. And then it was kind of suddenly like not ripped away, but it wasn't as imposing and scary once he came down off the throne, because he was very on the throne. He seems very tall and lanky and imposing, and he's you know, he has all these creatures under his will, and you know, he just, I guess in my mind, like it seemed like it was because he was so much bigger than them maybe, but then he comes down and he's smaller than Kong.
Yeah, so I think they did that on purpose. So like, because I do want to talk about the build-up. I thought to Scar King was awesome because it was there was a tension there of you kept getting like, you know, when Kong had left Hollow Earth, that something had come and killed the humans that were already down there. Yeah. And then, you know, you going back to Godzilla, you have everybody mentioning that like Godzilla's storing up power, because like there's this awesome scene we didn't mention when he goes to like this power plant in France and literally just absorbs its power and is, you know, upgrading his literally his power. And then you get this like, you go back down on Hollow Earth and there's like there's a bloody handprint, and they're seeing like footage of like an ape's eyeball and stuff like that. And it's like, it's actually, in my opinion, a fairly like, there is a lot of tension that builds up to it. And I think they did that on purpose with the Scar King turning out to be not as impressive as he was, because I think you're supposed to have this moment like, how is this guy, you know, like, you know, ruling all over, like why don't these people just kind of smack him? And then that's when you do get the reveal of kind of the biggest threat in the movie is Shimu.
Yeah,
that's fair. This like ice dragon thing, who I thought was a really good creature that you figure out, or you're told, is that the Scar King controls using pain, which is such a badass thing, I think, to like, just that, like, that's where I think not only does Adam Wingard lean into the more anime or 80s aspect of it, he also leans into the anime aspect of this, of like straight up Godzilla does go Super Saiyan. We'll talk about that in a moment, because I do want to talk about that. But they do these weird like anime line moments of like, of the like, oh, he controls him with pain, and then it reveals that like he holds up this spike and Shimu winces and then cowers, and it's such a really, it is kind of a very like, not, I don't know about terrifying, but like, yeah, a terrifying moment of this like, this creature. Yeah, I don't know. You get what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah. I mean, it gives like some weight to what he's doing, and how he's able to control not only like a few apes, but like keep all of them in like, you know, like this imprisonment, because it's not just from him and his, you know, bone whip and his aggression and stuff. It is because he has Shimu, who was, you know, apparently able to like cause an ice age and stuff. So there's a lot more to it than just he himself. And I think that's true. That's a good point. And Shimu is I want to. Is it
I think
Shimu?
it's Shimu or Shimo.
I don't know, it makes me sound I feel like I'm saying like Shamu, like the whale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there's empathy for that creature too, because it makes me think of the dragons from How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
But it's you have empathy for that creature because it obviously doesn't want to be doing the things it's doing, and it's stuck in this like lava pit, which can't be good for it because it's an ice creature, which I know is kind of obvious, but like.
But why?
I'm excited to see it. Like, I'm excited to see her come back and is it he or her?
I don't think they ever actually talked about that.
Well,
but why?
Yeah,
This isn't a comic book.
it's true. It's true. It's not
What do you think of the Godzilla movies? Well, no, it is a comic movie. This isn't a Godzilla podcast or series. This isn't a Godzilla. Fuck. But Wyatt, this isn't a Kong series. The Kong moments are great and we love it. But what do you think of the Godzilla moments?
Yes, they're fantastic. I loved it. No, I thought they were all great. It was fun to see Godzilla beat the shit out of some monsters. That was cool. Like I said earlier, I wish there would have been maybe a little bit more Godzilla in the movie, but. It was fine. What was in there was good, and I enjoyed it. And I liked the dynamic that Kong and Godzilla have, and I like that. There's definitely seems to be like possibility for more to come as we go on in time, and that's exciting. And I have a thought too, and I don't know if we've talked about it. We might have. I may have heard it somewhere else, and I can't remember where, so I apologize. I'm not trying to steal someone else's thought, but. Maybe he's not. Maybe Godzilla is not. He wasn't gathering power for the Scar King emerging. Maybe it was that something else was coming. Maybe it's like a foreshadow for like Space Godzilla or.
So that would be cool.
Destroya.
And I would because I've heard like I think you mentioned that I have heard like some other people talking about like clues that lead to Destroya. The only reason I wouldn't put credence into that, and I don't want to speculate too much, is because they didn't. This was the first one that they didn't have a planned sequel for, so that they weren't. So that's why there actually wasn't here. This was the first Legendary movie that doesn't have a after credit scene because they didn't know they were going to get to make another one. Which this movie has smashed the box office. It's like I think been the #1 movie for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's going to get a sequel for sure. Season 2 for Monarch has been confirmed.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that has been confirmed. And then I think the CEO or the president of Legendary, somebody really important at Legendary, has come out and says Godzilla has this series has a bright future because it's done so well.
Woo!
Yeah. So this is nothing's been greenlit, but other than the second season of Monarch, and I think they said some spinoffs. But anyways, getting back to the actual movie, I thought the first time leaving the movie, I did agree. I thought I could use more Godzilla, but I actually think in the second go around, they did a really good job of compared to some other movies that we're going to get to, building up to Godzilla and giving you enough of Godzilla fighting other monsters. You see the moment of Godzilla building up, absorbing the energy. You then get this transformation into I don't know if they have a name of other than supercharged Godzilla or when he's breaking out of the coolest fucking way to transform is he literally breaks out of a glacier and is now with a fiery red pink spine, and it has literally changed his he's so supercharged it changed his form. They literally say that in the movie of and this is another one of the, I felt like an anime moment of Godzilla's changed his form, and then he's coming out with this pink aura, which is actually based off of, I don't know if you know the Kaioken form from Dragon Ball Z. It's what Goku goes, before he goes Super Saiyan, he has this red form that if you know Dragon Ball Z, you know Kaioken. If you don't know Dragon Ball Z, I'm sure you've seen the pictures of Godzilla, not Godzilla, Goku going like red and stuff like that. It's super cool. Adam Wingard has straight up said that's what it's based off of.
Oh,
so that's awesome. And then I think the spines, if we can get nerdy again for a second, I think the spines,
we will get nerdy.
the scales or however you want to call them on the back are based off of like, and this is just my own thoughts, are based off of the Millennium Godzilla because they're a lot more jagged like those were. And I think that's like he takes a lot more of a Millennium-esque appearance once he goes Super Saiyan or Kaioken.
Yeah.
Which I think that moment's awesome. I think the moment of him like showing him fight Tiamat and just again, Godzilla's in his Goldberg stage here. He shows up for 5 minutes, he jackhammers Tiamat, and he goes in and he charges up to get even more super to fight in what turns out to be the final battle.
Yeah.
Which like that's actually what I think ends up being the strongest part of the movie is overall is like once you hit the third act, once Godzilla transforms and hits the third act, like from there it's go and every moment is awesome. I think the third act is really the strongest part of it when like pretty much when Shimu, like we're skipping over a lot of plot by the way. So like the entire time when we're getting all these Godzilla and Kong moments, the human characters who we actually agree are the best, some of the best in the series so far. Yeah. They end up meeting the main character, I forget her name, I want to say Gia. She's a little deaf girl. Yeah. And it turns out to be part of the Iwi tribe from Skull Island who then is taken down to Hollow Earth, and turns out there is a whole tribe of Hollow Earth Iwi people who are living there, and actually there's like a prophecy which leads to kind of one of my lesser favorite parts of the movie. There's a prophecy that a Iwi from Skull Island will come down to revive Mothra. And that's, you know, I love, and if you have anything to say, feel free. I love that they brought Mothra back, because I love Mothra, obviously. I love any creature, any Toho creature making an appearance, or monster, that's awesome. But I don't love how they built up to it, because it didn't necessarily ever feel built up to it, just kind of they kept saying like, this is a Mothra temple. And then someone would go, yeah, they're saying that someone's going to bring Mothra back. Oh, she's bringing Mothra back. And then Mothra just comes back, which Mothra ends up having really awesome moments and ends up being the like, I guess, glue of Godzilla and Kong coming together. Yeah. But like, it just literally felt like, yeah, Mothra's here.
Yeah, it was kind of like they turned a corner, like in a hallway, turned a corner, and it was just like, oh, now we're bringing Mothra back. Okay.
Yeah.
Neat. Yeah. Like, but yeah, I mean, like, I'm happy Mothra came back. I love Mothra, of course, but yeah, there wasn't. I don't know. Maybe that was supposed to be kind of just like a in-your-face surprise. It just didn't land properly for us, I guess, maybe. But yeah, it was cool. And Mothra does have great moments in the movie, and like Corey said, she is like glue that holds or brings those two together and gets them to stop trying to murder each other, which is cool. Well, I guess gets Godzilla to stop trying to murder Kong.
Yeah.
Because Kong was trying to be peaceful about things.
Yeah, because the introduction of Mothra, while Mothra is being revived, we get, man, every time I think of a fight, I keep thinking this fight's my favorite fight. That's how good the fights are in the movie. Every fight, like when you start talking about it, you're like, oh, this one's the best. But specifically, so, and like I said, I'm talking about the moment where Kong finally gets the robot arm.
Oh yeah.
Which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie because it plays like it's set to you, like they almost set it up like it's going to be this whole other side plot of like, oh, we have an augmentation for Kong. We need to go get it. And because his in the first fight with Shimu, if you don't know, Shimu shoots ice breath. We kind of skipped over that. I cut you off, so we skipped over that part. And you know, Kong now has frostbite and needs help, and so it turns out they had an augment exactly ready for Kong exactly in this moment. Another one of the super anime Kong now has a new form himself because he gets battle armor with steroids injected into it. And so then he gets, this is, like Stone Cold getting the knee brace is what I'll say this time. It's the arm brace. And this leads to this awesome moment where Kong opens up a portal and appears at the pyramids of Giza.
Yeah.
Pyramids of Giza, and Godzilla is all the way in Gibraltar, which this is how bad my geography is. So Kong lifts his hand up and signal to Godzilla, and Godzilla's on a hill or a mountain in Gibraltar and roars and leaps from the hill. And my brain was like, oh, he's diving into Godzilla. And like I had that moment of like, I don't know if Gibraltar in Cairo, Egypt are close enough that you can do that, but I'm gonna buy it. And it turns out Godzilla had to swim through the ocean to get to, still had to swim through the ocean to get to Kong. But I definitely thought for a second there, like Cairo and Gibraltar were like right there.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever heard of Gibraltar prior to this movie, so you got me there.
That's right.
But talking about these two actually not fighting each other but fighting together, I think the whole when
you're gonna skip over the pyramid fight.
I'm excited to get to them fighting together.
That's awesome. No, I agree because I agree, but we can't skip over because the pyramid fight was awesome too. And I don't, we can. It's kind of one of we can tell you every move that happens, and that will, won't do it justice because just watching it like this. Yeah. All of these fights. Before we get into this, all of these fights really are worth seeing on the big screen. Like you're not. I think if you put down the anywhere from the $5 to $20, however much it is, where you're at your theater, like it's worth it because this is a great time. But there's something just weirdly chaotic, and I would say borderline iconic about Godzilla and Kong fighting at the pyramids, like in Egypt, throwing each other through pyramids, and literally Godzilla at one point suplexes Kong.
I forgot about that.
He suplexes Kong, and then there's this awesome moment where Kong finally gets to try out his arm, and it's electrified. Which I think is also another reference. I think that is a reference to the original Godzilla versus King Kong, where King Kong
uses lightning
and ends up beating Godzilla. And so then he ends up almost knocking out Godzilla, but as he's dragging him towards the portal, you hear the like, and this is the first we get to experience that Godzilla's new. Because not only with his new transformation, he also has now pink or red or rosé atomic breath, and it is hardcore. It's awesome.
It's awesome.
And it's the first inkling you get of how powerful Godzilla. And like pretty much as soon as Godzilla's about to kill Kong, that's when we get Mothra who shows up. And this is another moment I want to talk about because I had this moment both times watching it with you and then watching it in the theater with my dad. Of like, for some reason, my brain realized like, oh, I never thought I'd see Mothra, Kong, and Godzilla not just on the screen together, but in an American movie.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a I think cool moment. But
that is a very cool moment.
And it leads to what then becomes the final fight, which if you want to start that off.
Okay. I mean, I think like if you see that fight and when they charge out of the ground and charge, they're like Scar King and Chimo are charging at Godzilla and Kong is on Godzilla's back. If that doesn't get you like hyped up and you want to either fight something or just I don't know, fight the wall. I don't know like what's wrong with you, but that's probably my favorite like quick scene in the whole movie.
I don't disagree. Like and to describe the scene, it's not just they are running together. The fucking whole final fight scene starts as Godzilla and Kong go through the portal to Hollow Earth as they meteor into the ground. You see a meteor hit the ground, and then there's silence, and they burst out of the ground together and start and charge the screen like they're fucking Captain America. You know what I mean? Like literally, it feels like if you're a Godzilla fan, it kind of feels like the portal scene. I don't know about scale wise, but definitely hype wise.
Hype wise, yeah.
It was,
it was so cool.
And it leads to the awesome final fight where it starts in Hollow Earth, and this is actually where Mothra does get to start a little bit because we kind of left out like Scar King and Shimu at this point have their own little gang of monsters with them ready to kind of wreak house. And Mothra does a really good job of she takes out the goons of Scar King and Shimu, and which is awesome because it gives Mothra this moment of like, if you remember back to King of the Monsters, she didn't really ever have a moment where she was badass.
Yeah.
And it was a moment that like Mothra's a little bit badass, guys. Don't forget, she can hold her own if she needs to.
Yeah. Yeah, she does a lot of like mopping up of the cronies, and that's cool. And it's fun to see them. It was fun to see them like flying around through the sky in that like zero-G area, or point in time when they're kind of flying around, bouncing off of each other, but then that leads to not Hollow Earth, but mainland Earth. I don't know what the actual wording of that would be, but yeah. And then it's just Surface World. Yeah, this guy.
Yeah.
But then it's just Shimu and Kong, or Shimu and Scar King and Kong and Godzilla, and then the little orange guy is there again. He follows them through a portal. And,
you're leaving out some really fucking epic moments. Because we both left out that this whole time you find out that the Yui people somehow in Hollow Earth can control gravity. Like they have these weird little pyramid things that they meet.
Yeah.
And so literally as Godzilla and Kong and Scar King and Shimu are like charging at each other, the gravity goes off. And so eventually when the gravity is and they're fighting in the air, and it's really kind of cool to see them bouncing off of each other. And this is also when, Mothra's cleaning house. And when the gravity is turned back on, Scar King manages to make his way to not just any city on Earth, fucking Rio de Janeiro, which is really cool because he shows up and the people on the beach come running scared, and then Shimu starts literally freezing the sky and this is actually a really cool moment that I don't know if you noticed on the first watch, is like Scar King actually has to take a moment and realize he is not adjusted to the actual sun because he's been in dark lava, and so that's where he literally instructs Shimu to block out the sky with ice, which is another super anime moment of changing the environment around you for your fight, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess I did kind of skip over the whole like blocking out the sun type thing, which is very cool.
And the actual, the specific, because we haven't called out too much camera work or anything like that, which I do want to give a shout. Like the actual moment of Shimu showing up, because it doesn't show Shimu and Scar King yet. It like goes through the water, and as the water freezes, it reveals Scar King and Shimu on the beach, and it's a really fucking cool moment and a little bit scary. A little bit scary, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think they're great. I don't want to call Shimu a villain because they're not. It's not really
the antagonist.
Yeah, but I mean, Scar King is definitely a villain. I think he's a good villain. He's fun. He is intimidating, and there is some scary scenes like you were talking about. But I think once Godzilla and Kong show up, there's not much of a. He kind of loses a lot of his scariness pretty quickly because he's pretty on the ropes.
Yeah.
After the first few seconds, which I don't think is bad. I guess like I didn't hate that at all. Like it was cool to see them kind of start wrecking house a little bit, And I mean, he put up a fight with Kong and Shimu, and Godzilla fought a little bit. And it was kind of an even start, but it didn't take long for the tides to turn in that fight. And then, like I said, Scar King was it felt like he was on the ropes for a lot of that fight and kind of running a little bit, and especially once he lost the spear point crystal thing, and lost control of Shimu for a minute. Especially Godzilla with his breath, his atomic breath had Scar King running pretty scary pretty quickly, or not quickly.
I get what you mean because I don't think they made I think Scar King's character in this wasn't that he was I think they pretty much really quickly reveal he is not on the level of Godzilla and Kong. That he needs Shimu to even survive. But like I think they implement his character in a really creative way of like he's not the villain that is going to kill you or he's going to win every fight. He's the villain that figures out how he's going to survive. And was kind of the theme of the fight of like eventually I think action wise they end up switching and like because Godzilla and Shimu go after it a little bit and Kong and Scar King eventually, and like Scar King is using he's got this awesome, I mentioned a little bit like this bone whip thing that's it's a spine, which there's a lot of usage of bones in this movie. Like Shimu is chained up using spines, and there's literally a spine bridge. The infrastructure of Hollow Earth is just built on spines.
Apparently, yes.
And so yeah, once Godzilla and Kong switch, and Kong kind of is keeping Shimu busy, Kong Godzilla, sorry. Godzilla wipes the floor with Scar King, but Scar King keeps figuring out ways to like either get away or like there is one point where Godzilla finally like hits him a bit with like his atomic ray, and like Scar King like gets out of the way enough to like his back is shaved, and he realizes like, oh shit, I need to get back into control of this and set free. And that's that ultimately leads to the kind of the finale, and to kind of wrap this I guess plot up a little bit. The finale of the fight where eventually the Kong Jr. I know he actually has a name, but I just can't remember it.
Is it Doug? Because in the character, it's not Doug. Because in the character list on Wikipedia, there's Doug. Who is Doug?
He's not. I know it's not Doug. I know it's not Doug.
I need to know who Doug is.
But yeah. Anyways,
I'm sorry. I'm very
so
curious.
eventually, Kong Jr. or if you want to call him Doug, you can. Doug drags Kong's axe out and manages to, in time, smash the crystal controlling Shimu.
Yeah.
And the moment Shimu is not in control, he pretty much it's over for Scar King. Kong ends up beating, I guess, the shit or tar, if you will, out of him.
The shit tar.
The shit tar. And they pretty much all combo of like Godzilla and Shimu and Kong are just kind of bullying.
They're kind of bullying. It's like a cat playing with a mouse. Like they're kind of kicking his ass.
Yeah.
And it's kind of comical because he's not shifty enough to get away from all three of them at the same time. And it wraps up pretty nicely. And Shimu gets a nice little bit of revenge, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And so then pretty much kind of, and the movie ultimately ends with like just this pretty much like, again, leading into the 80s, like 80s action movie of like Kong and Godzilla like borderline nod at each other of like, good job, dude. And then like Godzilla kind of then just goes off and was like, goes his way. And then Kong and Shimu eventually return back to, I guess, the land, the Hollow Earth with all the apes, and Kong for now, after the entirety of the series, is now King Kong, which I think is such an awesome moment. And like, it was here I kind of realized I just like watching apes interact. Like, if you watch the Planet of the Apes movies, in this scene, there's like definitely Planet of the Apes-esque movies, or Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, like the Matt Reeves trilogy, where it's that is something I cut you off. I do want to give a shout out to like the actual like body language and communication of the apes and the ape characters. Like I don't know who does the mocap for Kong or Scar King for that matter, but they both did a freaking fantastic job of admitting characters still when there's not much character, like because there's no dialogue, it's just body language, grunting, and it's a very but they're also just very entertaining scenes, and that's kind of goes for this whole movie of like there's very few scenes. Like I remember because I saw it with my dad, and he's old, so he needs to go pee several times throughout the movie, and there was it was the scene where Kong was flying. They were getting Kong's arm brace, and he was like, "Oh, is this good?" He leaned over. He was like, "Is this a good time to pee?" And I thought about it. I was like, "No, because the time to pee was like 20 minutes ago. Like it's awesome scene after awesome scene." And he was like, "Okay." So yeah. So like, I guess to wrap it up, like I guess plus minuses. You know, where do you think? Ultimately, what do you think about this Godzilla X Kong? Full spoilers, full like graded.
Yeah, I think it's a really fun movie. I really enjoyed it. I want to watch it again. I will watch it again. I think it could just be. I don't know if it's my favorite in the Legendary saga, but it's up there. It's definitely probably top 3 in the Legendary series for me personally. But yeah, I would definitely check it out and don't take it too seriously. Just have fun. Just enjoy a fun movie. You know.
Yeah, this is if you know, not to compare it directly to -1 yet. Like, you know, -1, as we all know, is very plot heavy, very very character driven. This is not. While it is very character driven, and we didn't talk about too much the human plot, and this is actually fairly strong for the Legendary series so far. Like beforehand, I would say like maybe with one exception, the human character plot-wise have been abysmal. Yeah, it's terrible. This one has some of the strongest characters, and we probably should have talked about it more, but don't want to. That's not true. I do really like it. The cast kills it. And ultimately, I think this is a really strong movie. I think this is a very, I could definitely see myself like putting this on just on a random Saturday afternoon and just wanting to hang out and see a ridiculous movie. This is a lot of fun. I think if you haven't seen it yet, I'm sorry for all the spoilers, but we tried to warn you.
You know what you got into. You had a warning.
Yeah, but ultimately, yeah. So yeah, pretty much that's kind of wrapping it up for now. There's no ranking this week, next week, so we didn't fully explain it. So really, what we are doing is throughout this series, we're going to go through every Godzilla movie in the franchise. And we're going to rank every single one as we go through them. Obviously, right now, this is the first one. So right now it's number 1 on the list, above every other one that we've covered so far. And so join us next week, or I don't know about next week. We don't really have a schedule for these things yet.
We'll get it figured
out. The next movie we are covering, if you want to follow along with us, is Godzilla 2014. We're going to cover, just so you know, schedule-wise, we're going to cover the Legendary series first, and then once we get through all these ones, we're going to kind of double back to the original 1954 Godzilla and go through all the Toho Japanese releases. The reason we're not doing -1 yet is, as many of you know, it's just not out here in America. For me, I saw it 3 times in theaters, but it's still been 3 months since I've seen it, and it's been longer for you.
Well, I've only seen it the one time when we saw it initially on opening weekend. So it's a movie that deserves fresh detail. I want to watch it again before we got a long road to go before we get there. So
yeah. So we might cover it when it comes out over here in America, or we might just wait until we work through every other movie in the series. We'll just kind of see how it pans out. But so yeah, for right now, Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire sits at number 1. Join us when we talk about Godzilla 2014 to see if it remains that way. Thank you very much. I've been Corey.
I'm Wyatt. Thank you guys.
Yep, thank you very much. You be good. We'll be back.